This is Danny Gould with the Gould team selling Silicon Valley. Welcome everyone to another Silicon Valley market snapshot for the first week in July of 2019. Happy summer everyone. And we are now officially like the beginning of the second part of 2019. 2019 part 2, if you will. And even though it's part 2, a lot of the things that we've been talking about over the last couple weeks are manifesting themselves in the data that we're going to look at today. We are going to be revisiting the heat maps. It's been a few weeks since we've looked at those, and I have those readily available for us. So let's just dive into the numbers, talk about it a little bit, and do some analysis. But first things first, the active listings for this week. If you remember, at the beginning of the year, almost everywhere was in triple digits year over year active listings, which means we had way more inventory, like double to triple the inventory that we did in almost every single area as we did at that time last year. Now, moving into the middle of the year, now we're seeing that only a couple areas are we still in the triple digits, and it kind of runs through the middle here of the county. All the exterior parts, right? The north, central, and south are in like the double digits year over year. Still, everywhere's in the black, right? So we still have plenty more inventory to choose from if you're a buyer, as we did last year. Now, when you compare that to the pending listings, you know, before this was a bloodbath. If you guys remember at the beginning of the year, or you know, especially in the springtime, everywhere was in the red, right? But now we're seeing some areas that are in the black, some areas that are a little bit more active, where some of the listings, the additional inventory is being absorbed by the market, right? And if you recall, if you've been watching these videos for any period of time, you'll remember that I talk about this ebb and flow, right? Where these A areas will be in the black for a certain number of time, for weeks to a few weeks to a few months, and then the tides will turn, and then like the other areas will go into the black, right? Because what will happen is that these areas will become inundated, multiple offers become more normal at that point, and then people flock to other areas where there's less demand, right? And so we see like this ebb and flow. We're still seeing fairly consistently Cupertino in the black. Saratoga has rebounded nicely. Los Gatos is still and especially if you look at the active inventory, Saratoga's not too far up. Los Gatos not too far up either in comparison to last year. And when we look at the numbers here in Santa Clara County, it becomes startling, how well we're doing right now. Honestly, I mean, I actually expected this to be far worse, but when you look at pending listings compared to last year, we actually have more pending single-family homes in Santa Clara County at this time last year than we did last year. That should be fantastic news to you if you're a seller. And for any buyer out there that is looking for a single-family home that thinks it's a buyer's market, you're wrong. Anyways, I'm sorry, that was rude. But honestly, you're wrong. If you look, compared to everything else. Now, granted, right? Like if you look at 2017, you look at 2016, both good markets. We're definitely far below the pendings right there. So the appetite in comparison to last year is slightly greater for single-family homes. But when you compare it to 2016, 2017, still not quite there, but still far from, we're miles away from it even being close to a buyer's market. Now, something to remember is that the story, I firmly believe the story for 2019 is the condos and townhomes. You see all of these condos and townhomes on the market. In comparison to last year, we have over double the amount of inventory, actually about 2.5 times the amount of inventory as we did last year. And so when you look at, even look at this, 209 condos and townhomes versus 748. This is absurd. It's absurd how much more there is to choose from if you're a buyer in the condo and the townhome sector here in Santa Clara County. And a lot of it, a lot of it has to do with people feeling like they missed the boat, right? They had these plans, and I'm finding this every day. They had these plans to sell, but they kept waiting and they kept waiting and they kept waiting. Then they missed the mark. Then they realized they missed the mark. Then they were like, oh shoot, I missed the mark. I got to put my home on the market. And then this sudden surge, pent up. I mean, look, for 3 years now, the inventory has been massively suppressed in the condo townhome sector. And now we're seeing the effects of that. Here's the silver lining for you folks who have condos and townhomes. The last 3 years have been a magnificent time for sellers here in Silicon Valley and for homeowners in general, right? So what you experienced in the last 3 years was a massive amount of appreciation. So much so that whatever rebounding effect, or not rebounding effect, but adverse effect this has on your home's value is peanuts compared to how much your home has appreciated over the last 3 to 4 years. Truthfully, when we talk about the condo and townhome sector, I am seeing many condos and townhomes selling for over 10% less than they did last year. Now, was last year the true value of the home, or is this year really the true value? Tough to say. I think it's somewhere in the middle, right? And really, until that condo and townhome number reduces back down to under, say, 400 or so, until that happens, you're going to continue to see a devaluation of these condos and townhomes, especially if we get more single families that come on the market, because you guys are aware that there's an echelon, right, of condos and townhomes in that 700 to 1.1 mark. There's quite a few of those, right, especially townhomes, and there's a lot of people that would sacrifice the allure of a new condo and townhome for the backyard and the white picket fence in a slightly less desirable neighborhood. And so this right here, it paints the story of what we've seen up to this point. It is painfully obvious to me that the market right now is not behaving in the seasonal way that it normally does. Case in point, when we look at 2017 here and 2016, you'll notice that in May, we had 1389. Right now we have 1246, right? This was a year where we had a big seasonal effect. There was a drop off in demand during the summer months, and if you look here, you'll also notice, we have 1054 to 996. We have this drop off in demand. So the seasonality is still occurring, right? But it doesn't feel like that because last year we had a huge acceleration in inventory, and as a result, because of this acceleration, we felt this sharp, distinct shift in the market, and it happened somewhere around before even those numbers, right? And so what happened was last year felt like a sudden switch turned off the market entirely and turned off demand, and there was a saturation in the market in terms of inventory. And so much so that when you look right now, we actually have more pendings right now than we did last year for single family homes, right? Which is crazy to think about, because last year was like an amazing year for real estate, but not in the summertime because everything switched, right? And so this year we are still, the numbers still reflect the seasonality that I discussed in previous videos. If you guys have been watching the videos, you remember that I told you the summer is going to be, slow, and just doesn't feel like it though. I'm here on the front lines, and quite frankly, it feels quite the opposite. And I think the reason that is because we we didn't experience the velocity or the influx of inventory that we did last year. We're experiencing a more steady stream of inventory, and as a result, things feel like they're more active, right? And so it's interesting because the occurrences of last year have shifted the public's perspective on what is normal in this market, right? And so even myself as an agent that's been doing this for a while, you start to forget what it really feels like. And the truth is that because the market is behaving in a way that it hasn't behaved in a few years, the seasonality is actually less pronounced. Case in point, when you look at the year-over-year change, you'll see that there's more inventory, 41% more, and 4% increase in pendings, right? So the buyer appetite's there. It's increased as opposed to last year, right? Now, remember, last year it was negative 23, so there was a huge drop-off, right? And so I think what we're relating this to, since we're relating it to last year, it doesn't feel as seasonal. But then we come back down here and we say, well, my goodness, we're, in terms of inventory, we're double the amount of inventory that we were in 2017, right? And 2017, it's funny because 2017 was a year where in the summertime, everything kind of went like sky high. It was an abnormal year. 1248 pendings, right, compared to where we are right now. Now, this is more in line, 2016, with where we are right now, right? And so if you look at these numbers, and you look at this number, you'll realize that yes, we have a little bit more inventory. Yes, we have a little bit fewer pendings, but the number, like the difference, right, like between spring and summer is more in line. And the truth is, right, that difference in inventory, right, like that change in inventory and that change in pendings, the shift in pendings from spring to summertime is ultimately what makes it feel like there's this shift in the market. And so I think what I honestly believe is that as we progress into the summer, we're going to see different areas actually behave much differently than they have in years past. I wholeheartedly believe that there will be some areas where this summer is actually going to be the best time to sell. And that is in complete contradiction to what I said a few weeks ago. But now, as we're seeing the data in real time and we're seeing the market, things could change. By the way, like next week, half of Santa Clara County could put their homes on the market. And all of a sudden, we have a completely different story. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. I think that there's a lot of trepidation on the seller side, and so there's a lot of people that are on the fence still. So the people that are ready to move now, a few weeks ago I said hold on to, hold off until the fall. Based on what we're seeing now, perhaps now wouldn't be the worst time. Between now and fall time, because the truth is, the short term, because of the data, we can predict that. Long term, going to be really, really hard to predict. So I think in this type of environment, you really have to like assess your situation and figure out whether or not like the time to strike is now, or roll the dice and try again, or try in a few months. That's ultimately going to be a case-by-case basis. And again, we can bring all the data, all the information that we need to help you make the best decision possible. So don't forget that, like I've said in every single video before, this is the macro, you are the the areas, the zip codes, those are the micro, and you're the nano, right? So every situation's different, and we can analyze your specific situation and come up with a game plan that's specifically tailored for you, specific to your area, your marketplace, how you're positioned in the market, whether you own a home in the top quartile, the medium 2 quartiles, or the bottom quartile. There's different strategies for every single case, right? So that's ultimately the punchline, right? Is that this should tell you the general story, but if you're like actually considering making a buying or selling decision, then it would behoove you to sit down with myself and really do your research, right? Because until you do that, until you really go through everything, you're not going to know what's truly best for you. And honestly, I'm not going to know either, because it takes you know, a while to research all of this and really, you know, come to a logical conclusion on your specific situation, right? So again, don't mean to get too far off tangent, but if anything, this should basically let you guys know that in this kind of neutral environment, and this is you know, a new territory for agents, because this is not something that we've seen for a long time. So in this kind of environment, right, things are going to change on a week-to-week basis. And so what I would encourage you to do is just keep watching, keep analyzing, and don't forget to call, text, or email if you have any questions specific to your particular situation. Guys, this is Danny Gould with the Gould team. Thank you so much for watching. We're selling Silicon Valley, and I'll catch you all in the next video.